Hello, everyone. Awesome. Well, welcome to the VO Cookbook with Julia Bianco Schoeffling and Julie Thompson. Basically, over the course of this hour, we are going to share an appetizer, an entree, and a dessert on VO knowledge. Thank you all for being here. And thank you both for being here. We got some really awesome questions submitted by our audience beforehand, but for those that are tuning in now, if you have additional questions, totally feel free to utilize the Zoom Q&A function that's separate from the chat, so they don't get lost with comments and all that jazz. And then we will pick them out from the Q&A. If they're already answered through the conversation, we'll check them off throughout, but we'll be sure to monitor that for you today. So I know you both, but I'd love to start off with intros from both of you and any key points or questions you'd like to bring up before. Julie, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm Julie Thompson. I am an agent over at SBV Talent, also Sutton Barth and Venari for full. I am mostly focused on interactive, but I also do anime and dubbing as well as animation. And we have a full service agency, so we also do promo and commercial as well. I just don't work in those departments too often. That's me. It's kind of weird talking into the void. I really hope there's other people on the other side of this.
There's
Uh,
36 other people on the other side
Yay.
right now.
Hi, everyone.
Oh.
Lovely to see you all. Welcome and good evening.
I just pinned you so that I could be talking to you. So
Oh, look at that.
that's how I get over the not being able to see all of the attendees. So,
Gotcha.
hi everyone. Thanks for joining us on Thursday evening. I can't believe it's November. It's a little hard to process. I'm Julie Bianco Schoeffling. I am the co-founder and COO at the Help Network, and I'm a casting director. And I've been working with Julie for 15 years, 10 years. How long have you been the agent? I've been working.
Well, I've been there like 6.5 years as an agent, 11 years as an employee.
Okay, so probably like between 11 and 6 years.
Yes.
And I'm excited to do this because we have very different perspectives and we often have to negotiate difficult things, but we also are friends and colleagues and call each other to kind of get opinions on things. And it's great to be able to kind of give you our different perspectives. So yeah, let's do this thing.
Amazing. You guys got this. I'm excited. This question is quite intriguing. Somebody asked, what are some things an agent and casting director do for their talent that never see the light of day?
That is a great question. And it's part of the reason why I really wanted to do this back and forth here. And why I said it's a conversation with Julie and Julia and a cookbook. I think that's something that actually I think it's a good conversation for Julie and I to just have together here. This is the sort of question that when I am going and working with my buyers, going to a lunch, going to coffee, where I'm trying to get better relationships, part of what I do is ask Julia, what sort of things, the way that my talent, the way that we submit, we send you a link. It's got a Dropbox so you can download all of the files. We follow any naming conventions as best as we can. We make sure we get NDAs over to you. We keep it as organized as possible. We follow your deadline requirements, but we also, if we have late submissions, we try to send them in an orderly way. Is there anything else that we can be doing to help support what you need to be able to get back to your clients? Are there materials that we can send? What could we do better?
I mean, first off, adding more to your plate is not necessarily in my best interest or yours.
No.
And I think that there's, that's the stuff that everybody knows you do, but like truly advocating for your talent and like having the difficult conversations with people like me without kind of ruining relationships. Like we can have different conversations without kind of burning bridges.
Hmm.
Those are the types of things I feel like you do that aren't seen, and just advocating for people and having those kind of both on the side of, hey, I'm freaking out because my client needs X, Y, or Z, and I'm not able to get that from you right now for whatever reason.
Hmm.
And you also you're dealing with my freakouts, but you're also dealing with actor freakouts on whatever it might be at the moment. So, like, I think that nobody actually realizes how much of a therapist their agent, or some agents can be. It's not necessarily
Yeah.
their jobs, but I do think that that's some of the unseen work. Um, in an ideal world, if everyone had a time and there wasn't, an expectation to do the amount of free labor that agents do, in terms of, because that's also something to make sure that people are aware of, is like, I get I get paid to do casting services. Agents don't. I get paid to cast. Agents only get paid when their actors work.
Hmm.
And so all of the mental energy and physical energy to figure out what the spec is, who's right for it, get it to them, deal with all the people that got pissed at you that they didn't get it because you're all talking, and then have to, then if you have time, even listen back and decide which ones to send. So all of that's unpaid labor. So,
Yeah.
I think that, sending materials and pitching people is what we went back to when we have time. and
Right.
and pitching and that always happens when you have someone new. We'll always get
Sure.
new materials and stuff like that, but I think, like, all of us would love to have a little bit more time and energy for, like, generals, and really developing and introducing and having those kind of uh, old school dynamics that used to exist. But
Right.
there's too much of a squeeze, and there's
Hmm.
not enough money that comes into the agency to make it so that you can have enough people, so that you can have, to do all of that labor. And that's also why the actor has to do so much of their own marketing and
Sure.
networking, because only 10% of it is going to come from the agency. But
Yeah.
I think that's just a tiny little bit of some of the unseen agent labor that we as casting see constantly, not let alone the emails at 10 o'clock at night and 7 o'clock in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
that's a whole other, it's a 24/7 gig.
Yes, it is. No, it's true. I mean, this is before my time, but still, I started 11 years ago where there was still a large portion of this happening, of people going. Um, it used to be a casting company, which tended to not be freelance, but was instead either part of Disney, part of Nickelodeon. They were a little tiny group. They did not have freelance casting directors. And if you were freelance, you had an office with a studio, and you would get hired to do auditions. And the casting director said, okay, here's the cost of my services. I have 24 slots I can do in a morning. I can get 24 actors in and do successful auditions for you and direct them and work with them. They come in, I get good, clean files. I can get that back to you. That's 24 that I can do in a morning. It costs you this much money. If you want more than 24, you're going to ask for 9 to 1 and 2 to 6. Oh, now you have 5 characters. Okay, we're going to have to be really specific. I'm only going to get 5 people for those specific roles. We're going to really tie this down. Then that casting company calls an agent and says, send me, who are your top people? I send demos. They look, they listen, they say, okay, these are the people I want to have. Bring them to the studio. Now, the agent's job was just to call the actor and make sure the actor was available. And now the actor went to the studio. That's all gone. That's completely gone. And it's transitioned to, I get the paperwork and I have to break down those specs. I have to make it look clean and pretty. I have to make sure that I cast it properly so that it goes out to talent properly, so that The right people are reading for the right roles, but I'm not knocking somebody out of contention just because I'm not sure where their range might be for something like this. And then we have to get all of those files back. We have to organize them, clean them up, relabel them, and then send them back. And so now all of that work falls on us. We never had to do that. And you're absolutely right. We don't get paid at all for those services. And when someone sends me 45 characters for a game and they tell me these are just some NPCs, and I'm like, great, that's like maybe 1 or 2 sessions per character, and I might book 1 or 2 of these roles for my talent. We have to be careful about how we allocate our time, and it's so easy to get swamped in that. So we as an agency try to develop systems in which we can move faster through this. But it becomes bogged down when talent don't submit on time, don't pay attention to their setup, making sure they have good quality sound, when they don't relabel their files properly, so we don't know what to do. So much of that is a constant amount of work we have to follow up on. But one thing I wanted to follow up here on, Julia, was you mentioned materials. This is something that I think that, it's the transformative new growth of how to support auditions, and something that I think actors could do more of. You mentioned being on top of their brand, being on top of their materials. So, we have all of our talent materials, their headshot. We have the links. We have a personal website for SBV Talent that has their profile, but we also have links to the talent's personal websites with additional materials. Bios, headshots, demos, they all need to be up to date. A lot of time our talent don't update them, so that can really take us back. But we can keep all of those things in one nice little document. And I can, we have a good system for, we've figured this out. And I can say, hey, to supplement this audition, to just try and get in there, I can send these additional materials. But the best way I can do that is if my talent are making sure I'm staying up to date and saying, hey, I just had a talent who was like, by the way, I'm doing a D&D streaming thing for Freddie Prinze Jr.'s YouTube channel. And I'm like, that's great. And I added that link to his materials. So now when it goes out, it's like, hey, this talent's doing something on streaming. Who knows what buyer might be really interested in that. But, when talent aren't communicating with me and giving me the materials and staying on top of it, it makes it very hard for me to support the opportunity for you, Julia, to take it back to your clients and say, here you go, this person's going to be great for you.
Okay, so that brings me to a really interesting point that I want to make sure that everybody thinks about, which is that when you are, I lost it. I looked down and I lost it. Hold on. It was regarding when these actors come to you. Okay, so keeping in touch with your agent and keeping your agent apprised of what you're doing and the things that you're accomplishing, or the things you're booking, or even if it may not be exactly a traditional like job booking. If it's something like this YouTube channel, this D&D YouTube channel that's relevant, that's a great thing to send to either me or Julie or both separately. But I know a lot of people are really concerned about how much to bug their agent, how much to bug someone like me, how often to send that kind of information. So for myself, I typically say, like, if there's no other excuse to be talking, like twice a year for me is fine, for like a little, like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I've been up to. If there's no, like, if we haven't been talking about something else, or if if there isn't something like super giant relevant to send to me, like twice a year for me. Obviously for an agent, it's going to be a little bit different when it's your agent. How often do you want your actors checking in with you? And how can they make it easy on you to get the info you need without taking up too much of your time?
Sure. And I think that that's such an interesting question, because I know my answer is going to be very different from other agents, and that's the reality. I'm very actor forward. I used to be an actor. I come from acting. It's literally like part of what makes me a good agent, I feel, and I hold on to that. So, but I'm not going to lie. I know there's other agents that don't like that level of communication. All opportunities, all options are available to you as a client looking for an agent, as an actor looking for an agent, and some of them may work better for you. So don't feel like just because you're not getting exactly what I might discuss here, doesn't mean that that's not still something that could work for you and your representation. But I prefer as much communication as possible on a non-urgent, no response needed, very simple, cut and clear, here's some information for you, sort of open line. Hey, Julie, just so you know, I'm doing this new D&D streaming show and Crazy World. It's on for Freddie Prinze Jr. Here's the link. Thought you might like to know. No need to respond. Great. And then 3 months later, when I have breath finally, and I'm on a weekend and I have some time to update, I'm like, great. And I respond, I'm like, thank you so much. This is amazing. But the overly superfluous or the a little bit more aggressive approach of like, hey, you didn't respond to my email last week, and I just want to make sure you saw this. Now, if you have something important, like, hey, something super big just came up for me and I think you should know. I just had a casting agent say they love me and they wanted my materials. Can you please send? If I'm not responding to you, call me and very simply, hey, just want to make sure you saw my email. It's a little timely, so just want to let you know. Understand you're busy, but I just wanted to get it on your plate so you understand it's a little bit more urgent. You've got to understand where those boundaries are for yourself. You have to understand if it's actually timely or not. Don't abuse that power. But phone calls help direct my attention to the 5,000 emails that I have. So I can use that support, but you just have to be thoughtful about your approach for it.
Yeah, definitely be careful about the abuse of power. But being communicative, and the no need to respond is like I say that, and I try to say it in every class I teach. And
yeah,
you're the one that said it at camp, right? That was your
yeah.
okay, I have used it ever since. It is so freeing because we do get a very large volume of emails, like we, on the thousands in a day/week. So it is very nice to be given the opportunity to not respond and to not have that on your conscience.
Yeah, I see Gina just mentioned that she did that once she heard at camp, and she did, and it made me want to respond to the email and be like, thank you. So it's fantastic and very helpful. And no matter if it's establishing a relationship with someone or not, and I use it when I'm talking to casting, when I'm saying, hey, this is not something timely. This is not something you need to know, but I just thought it'd be really interesting for you to have this information. I try to be very simple with those emails. I don't try to belabor them with a lot of stuff. I know how crazy it is for me to read an email with more than one paragraph.
Yeah.
So I try to keep it simple for you guys too. All right, that was one question. So
I know, I was just gonna say we better keep going.
we're just gonna talk forever.
Keep us
But
on
anyway,
track.
let's do it.
Some additions to that with you're dealing with 5,000 emails and calls. I was curious for one of our attendees was asking, what about when your clients bring in their own work? Like, do they, when they that book through other means, is that something that you want to be looped in on? Is that help your
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And
Well, hey, I'll say this. Depending on what your GSA is with your agent,
What's a GSA?
a general service agreement. So when you have a contract with an agency, you should check what your contract says. You should always read your contracts. But you really, more or less, your voiceover agent in your region gets 10% of whatever you make in voiceover. Now, some agencies might be like our agency is like union only, so we really don't do anything with non-union. Not too often, really. We try to almost always keep it union, but even if we, any other agencies I know, um, for the most part, they get 10% of whatever you make in that region. So Los Angeles for here, if you're in New York, that sort of thing. So, if you are booking something on your own, totally fine. Great. Thank you. You did all that work. That's amazing. But you are represented. You have an agent. They have a relationship with you. And the one thing to know is there's a huge difference between an agent and a manager. Agents legally, that we have a license. We are licensed with the state, and our legal obligation is only 10%. We cannot take any more than that. Whereas managers, it's a very different relationship. Often with managers, they do have rules about, or their contracts can have rules about what they can and can't take money wise from you. It should be only work that they procure for you, or that they procure with, in a conjunction with your agent, that sort of thing. But it's very important to keep in mind that when you're setting up a relationship with a manager, that you understand exactly what the expectations are for the sort of money they're taking. And they can take they can take anything. They can take 20%. They can do a $5,000 guarantee. They can whatever they want to do. They have no legal obligation like an agent does. We operate on different paths. We do different things for your career. They are both totally valuable. But technically, a manager cannot actually book you for work. All they can do is network with you and help get you connected with new people to hopefully bring in new business. And then they can work with your agent to negotiate a deal on your behalf. But your agent is the one that has to technically book you. So
we could do a whole webinar on that.
Honestly, all these questions too, I'm like, these are all separate webinars in one. And so, what about when you have a greener talent that's signed with a big agency like SBV, where they are early on in their careers, but they want to capitalize on those bigger opportunities for long-term success? Is there anything in your experience that was vital to a specific talent doing that transition from hobbyist volunteer work to working regularly?
I mean, I think one thing I would say is that there's a lot of different types of green talent. So that answer, I could give you many different versions of that answer, but I will say this of kind of where I'm thinking that question is going to go is to say this. Um, I represent people who come on who have had years of VO experience, and then tons of people who are green, and we are excited about their voice and we want to build them. Um, the main thing is that people who are green are not sure what their communication level needs to be and how much work they need to be putting into it. Um, so, but that can all be sorted. You can watch Zoom webinars like this. You can go online and watch a ton of other classes that have been provided. You can go participate in other panels. You can do some HelpNet Academy work. So much you can do to bridge that gap of understanding what are the expectations of me when I'm in with a big agency. Absolutely none of it should stop you from getting the big opportunities. And I'll say this, I brought on someone who was relatively green, very green, just moving to LA. Certainly knew no one out here. Had experience in New York, but it was very specific experience for a very specific reason. I felt really connected to them, and I was just like, yes, we're going to do this. It took a year to get them actually into something. And so it takes time. But out of 4,000 motion capture auditions, they booked the one role. They booked a secondary lead, and huge, massive. Coming from someone still working on their career, still very green to us, and I mean, and we worked on that deal. I put every effort behind making sure that they got just as much representation as my top tier talent. And they got the best deal possible, and now they're working on it and having a fantastic time. So anyway, don't let being green make you feel like you can't take every opportunity available to you.
And similar question, that's great. Similar question for Julia. Someone was asking, what's the number one piece of advice you have for someone that they're greener, they're doing consistently good work, but they aren't quite booking? And then they said it's hard to not be influenced by trying to stand out or add too much to the audition.
Okay, so there's two answers to that, but generally getting the auditions means you're doing it right, because you won't be continuing to get them if you're not doing something right. And that should just be the thing that keeps, if you keep getting auditions, you should keep going. There's so many different, and a lot of people ask when they should be ready to audition, and it's when you're ready for rejection. Because that's the other piece, is because you're not going to get a lot of things, and you need to be okay with that and learn from each one. Damn it, train of thought, man. It's 5:30. It's been a long week.
It's the hard not to be influenced by standing out.
Thank you. Okay, so the number one thing, and I don't know that, I assume it's like this in other media, but specifically in games and my experience, we are, rather than trying to stand out from a pile, you should be trying to give your own version of something. Your life experience, your training, your morning, and the way that you got your coffee and went down to your car and put on your shoes, and whatever the things that you did, all those things inform your choices. And that perspective is not something that anyone else has. So you need to use that perspective to create a unique take on this character. And because games have so much room to add flavor to characters, that's where, by building that backstory, nobody's going to have the same backstory. Nobody's going to create the same character with those specs, because they haven't had the morning you had, or the night you had, or the week you had. So just really leaning into your own unique take on things is all you can do to feel like you left it all on the table or on the floor. It's just do you, and stop trying to be the thing that stands out, or trying to be the thing that we want. And then finally, and this is the answer to like 25 of the questions, we just want to work with people we like.
Yeah.
We want people who are kind, who have a really good work ethic, who are professional, and who are excited to be there, who we're excited to recommend. If you've ever been in a position where you've recommended someone for anything, and they haven't done you justice, and you're like, crap, that was my name and my recommendation, that's always it. Like, I want to be confident that when I give this group of talent to a client, that they are happy with the humans as much as they are with the performances.
And speaking to that as well, this is for both of you. We got a lot of people asking about networking and that little pearl of wisdom of working with people we like. Some people are nervous about having, when they try to network, that it'll be viewed as transactional. And do you have any advice for helping people come out of their shell, being more themselves, so they can have those genuine connections?
Sure.
Don't be transactional.
Yeah. Just don't be transactional. Yeah, perfect. We're done. We got it.
Part of that question too, I saw a little bit, was like, I don't really like to network. And I did have someone at one point was like, is there something else I can do, or what can I do that I don't have to network? And here's what I will say. When I was 18 up through like 24, I was convinced that I didn't want to ever do networking. That was slimy, and people were just going to love my talent, and that's what was going to get me somewhere. And first off, I came from Kentucky to LA. I knew nobody. I did not realize how much nepotism is just rampant in the industry. And it took me a while to learn that. And I was really, for a long time, convinced that networking was just something that I was never going to really be able to handle, figure out. Oh my God, I'm just like this little girl from Kentucky. How do I talk to anybody? I don't understand. In the 11 years that I've worked at SBV and I've built this career that I have, and I've learned how to have the confidence in myself to go out and talk to people. Um, the thing that I've learned is that there is no magic pill and you need to stop searching for it.
Mm.
And that is true for a lot of things in life, but all of our books on shelves at every bookstore tell us how to fix your life. And there's some great nuggets in there, but none of them are the magic pill that will solve your entire life. We see people on Instagram telling you, I bought this one thing on Amazon and it fixed everything for me. And then you don't see behind them the pile of trash that is their life. And then, of course, like, 5 days later, they're like, this is how normal I am. See, like my life sucks. And stop buying into the idea that there is a magic pill that will tell you how to do it a different way than somebody else does. Learn how to have confidence in yourself. Learn how to communicate with people. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That was a great book that helped me. It gave me some nuggets of wisdom, some tools that I rely on when I go networking. You may find another book that helps you, but it's only going to help you. You have to do the work yourself. You have to push yourself to go out there and do it. The other thing is be yourself. I try really hard when I'm out and about to just be myself as much as possible and talk to people about normal things. Sometimes when I talk about things not work related, I have a much better conversation with people. Don't put the pressure on yourself to be perfect. Don't go out there trying to sell yourself. And also know that it doesn't happen overnight. When I go to conferences, like I just went to GSC, to GameSound Con, when I go to those and I sit there and I'm like, oh, there's certain people that I bet will be there. I want to make sure I get the chance to go talk to them, to network. And I make that happen. And I'd love for it to be like, oh my gosh, I want to work with you forever. You're amazing. Oh my God. But it's not going to happen. What happens is I go and I say, okay, I really want to make sure I talk to this person for just a little bit and get some FaceTime with them, because most of the time we're on email or phone call. Mm-hmm. I do it, I have the conversation, and then I leave it, knowing that it may turn into something, it may not. If the conversation feels really amazing and fantastic, I'll give my business card to somebody if I feel like it's natural. But for the most part, I just try to let it go and know that I've planted the seed and I'll return to it later. But it doesn't happen overnight. You may get lucky, but guess what? Luck is when, like, what is it? Like preparation, opportunity meet. Mm-hmm. When you're doing the hard work, things will come to you, but you've got to do the hard work first. So stop searching for the magic pill. I know it's not easy. I know it's not fun to go network. I don't like it either. When you go home, what do you do to take care of yourself afterwards when your social battery is depleted and you're like, I didn't like it? I go and I play my Switch, or I go take a bath. I saw someone online who said I have a dopamine menu, which they wrote all the things that make them happy, things they like to do, their hobbies, whatnot. And I'm like, that's fantastic. I made my little dopamine menu. And when I need to go back, that's how I rejuvenate and take care of myself. But take care of yourself so that when you do go out, you are full, your social battery is ready, and you can be successful. And then when your social battery is depleted, don't stress yourself out to do more. Take care of yourself, replenish, and get back out there. And guess what? Doing that over time strengthens that muscle so that when you go do it again and again and again, you're stronger and better and more confident, and you don't need as much time to replenish. I'm going to be done there so we can get to the next question, but that's it.
I think that networking can be such like an evil word, and it does become transactional when you are being transactional. I think it's, just like I said earlier, we want to work with people we want to be friends with. It is essentially making friends. It's being genuine. It's remembering that the people on the other side of the conversation are humans. They're people. They have lives. They have stress. They have drama. They have good things. They have bad things. They, and trying to not trying to stump them with a really difficult question when you first say hello, but also being genuine about asking about how their day was, or we had networking time at Game Sound Con, and so asking how your day was, complimenting on the day, because like knowing
Compliments are huge,
compliments are really like,
huge.
if if you're going to if you're going to come up to me and talk to me or Julie, knowing some of the stuff that we've worked on is really awesome. It's not that you have to do it, but it is something that is always helpful to start. And especially if you're talking to game devs, because they don't get these types of compliments often. Being able to just tell them what you appreciate about their work. Like, they're all artisans, they all want you to enjoy their work. So but like you said, it's the long game. I've been doing this since 2003, and I have relationships that are from 2003. I have clients from 2003. I have interns that are now my clients. It is absolutely, I've worked on getting clients for over 10 years. Two different clients took me 10 years to get. It is the long game. It's an investment. It's a career, and just be genuine and work hard.
I love that. It sounds like the common thread between these two answers is like being that genuine person of like with I love that dopamine menu thing of
Mhm.
it's almost like the path of least resistance because like some of the questions here are like what's the best path to
Mhm.
progress? But that's to this of like what feels good to you and
Yeah.
what speaks to you. Same thing with like getting in what's the best way to get in front of different talent agents and casting directors? It's like, do you need everyone or is it someone for you? Like, is that what you would say for that?
There is no best path. There is just your path, and you're going to find it at some point if you work for it. But again, it's like asking for where's the magic pill? Like, can you just give me the solution, please? Can you do the work for me?
Mhm.
Um, and it's I know that people it, this is my life too. Like, this is what happens for me, and what I struggle with is not knowing how to jump into something and letting that fear keep you from realizing that it's within you to solve some of this yourself, and to know that there are resources out there to learn from and to grow from, but the actual work comes from yourself. It just does. There's very, very few instances where someone just catapults to a certain level. It just doesn't happen. Don't believe that hype. Don't do it. Um, you're gonna have to work hard. The rest of us have. Asking me what the best is not the most helpful way to get to the answer. Asking me what options are available is a good place to start. Um, and then exploring it for yourself. But it still takes that hard work. Now, an answer to that of not saying what the best path is, but what are some options for you? Um, Getting in front of casting and agents are different, but so I'll talk about agents. So um, there are lots of opportunities for getting in front of agents. It depends on what you're looking for. Obviously, here we're talking voiceover, so I'll confine it to voiceover. Um, there are showcases if you are part of UCB, Groundlings, if you're part of any theater playhouses, if you're able to get into some of like NBC's classes that they do showcases. And if you have one of those and there are agents that you're looking to get into, you're going to try and get to their info account email, or you're going to see if there's any way you can get email addresses for people, and you're going to try and send it. Now, I will say this, if you're emailing somebody that you have no personal email for and you get it from IMDb, it's very unlikely that the person is going to be interested in following through with you when it comes to an agent. Casting may be a little different because that is something that they might be willing to go out for. But showcases are a way. We typically, as agents, get emails from the showcase, the people putting on the showcase, telling us, inviting us for free. And so typically you'd want to be just letting that happen. That is one way. The other way is to be doing a lot of this, to be constantly participating, learning, and working with people in the industry, networking. The more you get to know people in the industry and they get to know you, the more that they're going to sit there and say, this person is great. I really like them. And I all of a sudden have this position of power where I have a connection to an agent and I'm going to email on their behalf. And guess what? The first time that happens may not work. The second time that happens may not work. Don't put all your eggs in the one basket. It's just not going to happen. Don't get too excited. We all do it. It happens. I've had opportunities where I get all excited in my mind. I'm like, ooh, this is going to turn out great for me. And then it doesn't happen. And you're just like, all right, Julie, just like come back down to earth today and move on with your day. And if you can do that successfully and keep moving forward, you're going to be on the best path for you. But it does not happen overnight and it does take time, and you may not land at the best agency for you in the beginning.
Yes.
You may have to grow there. Don't put the pressure on yourself to be perfect.
Don't need to go to the big agencies at first. You shouldn't be at the big agencies at first. You should be at smaller agencies where they can develop you, and you can kind of screw up.
Yeah, no, you get a year and a half on a contract. That's your first contract is a year and a half. That's not a lot of time to establish yourself. And if you aren't booking successfully, I'm sorry, but I do have a bottom line. It is a business, and that's just the way it is. There are times when we go to bat for somebody we just know has it in them, but I have to cash in those chips with other agents at my company and hope it pays out. So we do the best we can, but it is a year and a half. If you're a young green talent and you're trying and you get lucky and you get your way towards something and you get connected, be careful. You have a year and a half. You're now going to have to go on overdrive to network like crazy and get people to know you so that you can succeed. So that at that end of the year and a half, you look like a worthy investment.
And if at that end of the year, they're still in like this place where it feels kind of like limbo, is that usually where you would consider dropping a client, or is there a chance to do some course correction if that's fixable?
Yeah, I mean, all options are on the table. It's all a matter of where we're at as a company at that time and where that talent has been. Have they been putting in the work? Are they not putting in the work? Are they not communicating so we don't know they're putting in the work? I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's been times where we go to have that conversation, that tough conversation with someone to say, you know, I'm sorry, we've had to drop you. And they will sit there and tell me, oh, but I've been doing this and I've been doing that. And I've been doing this. And I'm like, where's the communication? What? It's been 2 years and we haven't talked. We haven't had that opportunity. So yeah, it's important to stay on top of your career. But it's easy when you're with a new agent to forget how to do that, or with a bigger agent, it's easy to forget how to do that. And I just realized my work is texting me. Give me 1 second to answer this. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
No, you're fine. See, she's
always
even working now.
we're always
I was going to answer from the casting side of that, but I also would like to discuss with Julie what do the work means, because I do think that that's important. Is like is what does that look like? What does doing the work look like? And one of the most beautiful things about my job, and I'm sure Julie's too, is that we see the progress. And if you do the work, it is something that you improve upon. Like acting is not something that you have innately in you, that only certain people have. Like you can do the work and you can succeed. It is something that you can train and be good at. But nope, it's gone.
No, you're totally fine. Oh,
Do the work though? Is that what you wanted to
Yeah,
talk a little bit about?
that is the part I would like to talk about, is like, what does that work look like? Obviously, it's classes,
Hmm.
it's training, it's networking, it's making
Hmm.
sure your materials are up to date. It's replying it's replying quickly and efficiently when you're reaching out to them. It's updating you on the things that they're doing. It's actually turning in the auditions that you ask for. Is
Yeah.
there anything else kind of on the list of doing the work? Like,
I mean, I think that those are like your key points, right? Those are the things that you need to be doing. Again, an agent is 10%. You are the 90%. Technically, you're the 100%, and then we're 10% on top of that. But still, it's cleaner if you say you're the 90%, we're the 10. But we are. That's all we are. And this agency, this world, this 40 years ago, you could go and you be in LA and you talk to some people at the one dive bar that all the actors hang out with, and they connect you with an agent and you go make a reel, and then your career is just, it happens. That doesn't exist anymore for none of us. It's
mhm.
not the golden age for me as an agent either. This is hard work. Um, but yeah, doing the work really truly, you know, when I sit there at the contract meetings where, hey, someone's contract is coming up, and we look at their numbers to see where they're at, and if their numbers are kind of lower, we have a conversation, and part of that is, okay, have I heard from them in the last year and a half or 2 years or 3 years, whatever the length of the contract has been. And depending on what, department you're most usable in, if someone is really just a commercial booker, then that relies on the commercial agent. But if someone books all over the place, then we all need to pitch in and have that conversation. um, and it's talking about, are we really feeling like they're putting in that work? At the end of every day, I get an email telling me, here's all the auditions that we did, and here's all the people that actually you asked for auditions, and the people who actually submitted. We keep notes. Did they pass? Were they out of town? Did they ask for an extension? All of those things are there so that I know when I look and I see no check mark and no note next to your name, and I see that the next day and the next day and the next day, and I see it on more projects than not, then when I go into those meetings and I'm like, they don't seem to be auditioning on anything. And then when that talent then comes and I call them and they say, well, I don't understand. Why not? I'm like, well, did you audition? Well, I mean, yeah, but and listen, we're all busy. There's times when you miss an audition, you miss an email. I get it. This is different. This is when someone's not paying attention to their career in the long run. Um, but yeah, it takes just a lot of communication. And again, you may have an agent that doesn't like as much of that communication or doesn't respond to it, but just because they don't respond to it doesn't mean they're not seeing it.
Yep.
So just do it, keep doing it, don't be afraid to do it. And don't let it happen that a year goes by and then you get the call and then they're breaking up with you, and now you have to fight for yourself and you tell them all these things that they didn't know. Don't do that to yourself. You're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Mhm. That's great. Yeah, the communication is key. Stand strong. And for casting too, like, is there, when you get so many auditions, Julia, like there's repeat names coming in where you've seen their work over the course of 2 years. Similar question to with like dropping a client or trusting that an actor is progressing. Are there tenets of that relationship between casting that are specific red flags that you've seen come up or green flags to push forward that you kind of audit when you're going through?
Um, I I'm looking for liabilities. So those are the flags that I look for. I mean, like, as long as there's like the performance is there, and I don't necessarily communicate directly with actors all the time.
Mhm.
In terms of the auditions, a lot of them are coming from the agents. But in general communication, I'm looking for, like Julie said, emails where you're not necessarily aggressive, or have expectations that are put on someone like me. I'm looking for, people who are hardworking and eager and excited. I mean, I think that's also the other part, is like to be truly excited about the things that you're in. I know there was a question about conferences, and we've mentioned Game SoundCon a couple times, and one of the beautiful things about that networking at GameSound was seeing how many people were truly excited to see the other side of things and see how it works. Mm-hmm. And that excitement is truly part of the process. Mm-hmm. But in terms of, I am looking for people who are professional online, who are professional in email, who are professional in person, who you feel like you can recommend. Whether it's for an acting job or an engineering job or an editing job, I need people who can speak to clients on a professional level, who can keep discretion, NDAs, and who represent myself and my company in a positive light. We need to be very careful about the stuff we put on the internet these days, and I'm always kind of saying that, and especially in such kind of tumultuous times, and whether that's like strike land, politics, any of the above, just knowing that employers are looking at the things that you say on the internet, and they are making decisions based on those things, because they also are thinking about liabilities, and that's why I am.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. So this is something that I feel like I want so much more time to talk about forever and ever. That as an actor, you go to acting school and they teach you Alexander technique and they teach you Meisner and you read Waiting for Godot and you do all the stuff. And no one sits you down and says, here's what a contract looks like. And here's how to get an agent. And here's how to make a successful demo. Maybe they show you how to do headshots and a resume. But no one does anything else to say, hey, by the way, when you're an individual working for a company, here's how you get taxed. What are the benefits of doing a loan out? Do you need to make a certain amount of money before a loan out is successful for you? Yes. So maybe you don't need to do it immediately. So many things about the business side of acting that is just not discussed. So I urge actors to think more holistically about their career, recognizing that as much as you love the performance side, you cannot ignore the business side. Mm-hmm. There was a key term you said there, Julia. You said when employers are looking for you, because you, the actor, become the employee. It is a business deal. Art and business don't seem to want to go together very well, but it has to. So you need to remember that you are still an employee. You need to know how to go work with someone and be professional while also exploring your craft and enjoying it and having a fantastic time and building your brand and being successful. But you have to go into it recognizing this is a business and we have to respect that. You need to understand how your NDAs operate. You need to get the fly out of here. You need to understand how your contracts are operating, what you're being upheld to, and then know how to like negotiate for yourself, stand up for yourself, when to say no. It's okay to say no and stand up for yourself, but you are doing a business transaction. Knowing how to respect that, and then there's space for the creativity. That's the key to a modern actor, in my opinion. We don't have time for people to come in and be like, I just have talent and talent only. The rest of you just do the work for me. That doesn't exist anymore for most people.
No, it's true. And that includes acting professionally in person and online, so that the employers feel comfortable with you representing them. It is obvious that many people who talk on the internet have not held a corporate job because you would not be able to express yourself that way in this corporation, in this job. And so and it's unfortunate, and we have a lot of freedoms, which is great. But you do have to realize that what you say can be used against you or used to not hire you by these employers.
Yeah. And speaking on that with materials, I remember Julie, you mentioned with sending in links that will be on the site so that they can find you and have the full show the full breadth of what you bring to the table. Someone had asked, I've seen many BIPOC actors, even big names, just list their race in their bios rather than a specific ethnicity. And
Mhm.
from a casting standpoint is, and even on the representation side, is it always better to be very specific with the exact community you belong to help the employer and just where you uh, I guess exist in the social sphere you're in? Is that help in that sense?
For me, I
I
want
think, no,
specific. Yeah, for me, I want
yeah.
specific because we can always go wider. But
Mhm.
if I don't know that you are Chinese versus Korean, that isn't as helpful for me. I would much prefer to know, and especially if you have any language proficiency or anything like that, I would much prefer to know specifics.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sorry if you can hear the dog barking.
You
No,
can't.
Zoom
Oh,
cancellation.
Those are some great AirPods. Okay, well, she's barking right at the foot of my desk. Anywho, yes. I think it is such an interesting day and age that we live in where all of a sudden we have this ability to be open about ourselves and not feel like it's going to pigeon ourselves as an actor. I mean, that's such a problem that existed for so long. And it's so nice that that's not always the case. And certainly voiceover is really not that case. And I love that about this industry that we can look past anyone's identifying markers and instead say, who do you want to be? And let's explore that. And let's explore the emotional side of depth of who you want to be. Let's just go there and not be afraid to push past that. But from a practical standpoint, I don't have an opinion exactly about how someone has to represent themselves online, um, because I think everyone has their own version of what that means to them.
mhm.
And I think it's important to let someone feel comfortable saying, I don't know if I want to put that out there.
Mhm.
That's fine. And I've had talent who have had that conversation with me. But there's the key. It's the conversation with me, your agent, to say, this is who I am, but these are some of the things I'm not sure I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
Um, totally fine. We just started representing someone whose representation from a uh, language standpoint goes into one category. And from a I lived there and was raised there, but ethnically, that's not me. And so there's a difference of how do you put that in language? You can't always. But as an agent, what I can do is say, great, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to keep an open mind. I will cast you on things that come in as they come in. You will tell me you're passing. That's not what you want to do. And I respect that. And if I really think you're perfect for something, or if casting has told me, hey, we're going to open it up a little bit, I get to have that phone call with you and say, just so you know. And then they come back to me and say, okay, I'll do it. Or they come back to me and say, you know what, I really don't want to do this. I just don't feel right. And you know what? My job is to learn how to respect that. Not all agencies are like that. And I have to be honest, they don't always. Um, so you learn how to say no and stand up for yourself. And if you're saying no and the relationship's not appreciating that and respecting it, it's not working for you, that's when you look for a new agency or you look for a new relationship. Don't be afraid to say no and to stand up for what you need in your relationship with somebody. If it's not working then, it's not going to work 5 years from now. Don't
Mm.
stick with somebody that's not working great for you then.
Go
What's the
ahead.
last one? No.
Last one.
Mhm.
Last one would be if there's you had to choose one thing about your job that you love the most. What is it and why?
Julia, you want to take that one first while I think about mine?
Yes. I there's two things. It's working with people that I love and working with my friends. And then it's connecting them. I love connecting, and I think that's why I dabble in like recruiting and hiring as well as casting, because I think they all come from the same place. Is like I love good people. and people that are really good at their jobs and really good at what they do. And then I love sharing them with each other. It's like when you get a good sale item, you want to tell everybody about it. That's how I am with people that are good at their jobs, and especially talented actors.
Yeah, love it.
Nice. I think one of the reasons I needed to think a little bit about it is because talking about all of these things, which are uplifting and yet also sometimes bring up all the frustrations for me, right? Bring up all the things that can just make it so difficult for me to do my job and um, make it hard for me to feel good about doing the job because I'm mired in the little minutia or people's attitudes and personalities being difficult and wanting to do better for everybody all the time, wanting to bring success to everybody, but then getting pulled back when somebody is difficult or rude, or there's so many things and it can get really frustrating. It can make the job really, really tough to want to keep doing. um you know we've got the SAG strike going on for interactive right now, and both sides have really interesting valid points. That middle ground is so hard to solve, and you want so badly to figure it out, and it's such a puzzle, and that just brings you down sometimes to feel like, how do I solve the world? I want to. But putting all of that aside, when I get to work with talent and they get to book something that's been their dream, and it's because they've been doing the right stuff, they listen, we have a good relationship, we communicate, and I know they're working on it. And every once in a while, they might piss me off, but every once in a while, I text them and I'm like, hey, please do this. And they're like, oh, yeah, sorry. I'm like, great, thank you. And then they get to go to the premiere of that one project, and I get to see the pictures or I get to go with them. It just makes me so happy to be able to make that happen for people. And, you know, a lot of times when people come in for a meeting with me and we ask, what's your dream? What's your goal? And the thing is, I'm trying to ask somebody what's their attainable goal. I want to hear that people have real goals, not just lofty goals. And quite often people say, like, oh, I want to be in a Pixar movie. And that's a lofty goal. That's a beautiful goal. I have that goal. A lot of people have that goal. The attainable goal is, well, I want to make sure that I can start booking more animation. So my goal is to try and work on getting some more networking opportunities in the next 6 months. And I'm looking to take some classes with some different casting directors, and I just need to hone in on who those people might be, so that I can start really getting my animation career up and running. But every once in a while, that lofty goal comes true, and I booked someone on a Pixar film, and God, it feels so good, and it's so wonderful. But those things, that's because of the luck of preparation and opportunity coming together to make it work. And then there's the 50 other Pixar auditions I do that go nowhere. And I have to let those go, and I have to know that they will always exist. Hundreds of auditions that will always exist in the pitfalls of this didn't book. And that makes me so sad because they were so good. And then there's one that books. And God, it feels so good. It does.
That's awesome. We're very lucky to have two people that care so much about their jobs and are great people like you both. So thank you. And everyone's, I hope you all have taken away some pearls to incorporate into your day to day tomorrow. But yeah, this was awesome. Maybe we'll do another one of these. It'll be the Gordon
Yeah.
Ramsay buffet next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we still have
Cookbook
questions
number 2.
to
Yeah,
answer. So yeah.
yeah.
Thank
But
you all.
thank you so much. I hope everyone has a
Thank
wonderful night.
you.
And if you want another one of these, feel free to reach out to us at help@helpnet.com. And you can check out helpacademy.com for future webinars, more offerings, and we'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.